Greetings, everyone. We've come around the table again for another episode of the Pokey Factor. This week is a little delve into the world of Spyderco, but first we're going to break into what everyone's carrying. I have my Rafir Noble Chaparral. Those scales are so pretty.
They really are.
Yes,
So yeah, that's what I have today. Who's next?
we're playing Spyderco stuff. I've been Spyderco, but I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's the Spyderco tough. This thing's a monster.
Yeah.
It's a little ridiculous.
3V pocket steel. It's got a blood groove. That's all I got to say. In a pistol grip. That's like, yeah, it's fantastic.
3V pocket steel.
All about the 3V pocket steel.
Evidently.
Yep.
It's the only pocket knife I know, like folding knife in 3V.
Boker has got some stuff. Go, what are you rocking?
Going dainty today. What, with the 460?
Yep.
450.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about the 620.
And the CF with the green spacers.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
yeah. A little shot of those for the camera there.
And carbon
Yeah,
fiber,
that's green.
black and titanium. It's a wonderful thing. Lightweight knife, smaller than I'm used to carrying on a daily basis, but I decided to give it more of a shot.
Fully capable.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If I carried a 450, 460 variation, it would be this knife. That's my favorite out
Yeah,
of all
it's
of
a
them.
nice combo.
Yeah.
And an addicting flipper.
It's a flipper.
Jerk. And I got the ZT 850.
That's not a flipper.
No, it is not.
Nope.
But it will wave off your pocket.
I was going to say, it's a little bit of an Everton wave if you're not careful.
Has some really nice touches with the kind of revolver sort of styling there and whatnot. Pretty cool little knife.
All the way down to the pivot.
Sinkovich, Rexford, they crammed their brains together and popped this thing out. It seems pretty fancy.
Sinkovich has actually liked a couple of my photos of this thing.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Very neat little cutout for the lock bar there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very lightweight due to the handle construction,
Nice
just
subframe
carbon
lock.
fiber. Yeah.
Very
cool.
It's a cool one.
It's a cool little guy.
So yeah, so like I mentioned for the subject today, we're getting into Spyderco and kind of getting into the history a little bit and delving into Endura and Delicas. And Joe's the boy who's done the research this week, so he'll be talking this week.
Sorry, guys, you get to listen to me.
No!
So, gonna start off with the Delica here. What you could consider a major flagship model for Spyderco. They were introduced in '91, I believe. Just gonna double check that, and they've gone through several variations since. The Endura, as well as the Delica, were introduced. Although this was the primary blade grind style, the saber ground, or they call it a hollow grind. And I actually didn't think it was hollow ground for the longest time. Just recently, I actually took a straight edge with Nigel here, looking for any kind of gap in light. And yeah, believe it or not, this is a hollow grind. It's just super, super subtle.
It kind of shattered his world a little bit to admit that was actually hollow ground.
It is, but it bothers me. It does.
Yeah, it was funny.
We don't have a hologram Endura.
Mm-mm.
No, we only have
Full flats. Come on, man. That's the way to do it.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Anyway, continue on.
for what we have today. They started off actually with, although Spyderco is credited with pioneering the pocket clip in the production knife world, they didn't start with the stainless steel clip. They actually started off with one-piece plastic clips that went through the entire construction of the handle.
Yeah, like originally it was like a solid one mold piece, even,
Yeah,
wasn't
part
it?
of the handle.
Yes, it was. I'm sure Nigel can pop in visuals as we go to kind of illustrate what this would have looked like in comparison to today.
Also, Gin 1 steel.
Yes.
If
Okay.
I
So
remember
I'll
correctly?
get into the
Okay.
steel, but the major difference is visually. They changed a few things over the years. They went from the solid plastic pocket clip to there was the barrel hole, and then we'll get another picture.
Yeah.
It was it was kind of like Chicago screws from either side to kind of pinch a lanyard hole.
Yeah, they still use that for like their rescue model. Still has that sort of setup.
Which is super cool. So long little blast in the past, it feels like a '90s knife. It's weird.
Yeah.
And like Dennis was talking about, they started off with a steel called Gin 1. It was equivalent to Oz 8 at the time. VG10 is what they ended up with, but there were a lot of steel switching in between. They went from G1 to G2. There was labeling problems. There were certain times where they couldn't get G1 or Gin 1, so they had to call it There are Spyderco Enduras and Delicas without any stamping on it, as far as blade steel.
Interesting.
Just the city of manufacture that it's a Spyderco.
Yeah.
And it was a coin toss between the Oz 8 and Gen 1.
Just kind of the random guess of what it actually was.
Absolutely. And apparently Gen 1 was actually developed for Spyderco.
Cool.
And they did that in collaboration with one of the plants in Takfu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or sorry, it was Seki City. It was Seki
Okay.
City for these guys. That's right. So there were a couple different variations. In the first Endura 1, they had the black scales with all 3 edge types, so half serrated, fully serrated, and fully plain edged. They actually had some with red scales. And this was, I think this was actually the last time that they used red scales in a
Other than a trainer.
Yes.
Pre-rescue.
and that came a little bit later, but to show you guys now, this is a trainer with a wave. Here's the sharpened version. They use red scales now to demote trainers.
Yeah.
Basically, so that if
Demote?
you
Denote?
denote, thank you.
You're demoted.
Clearly,
Indeed.
Demoted to trainer.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's demoted to a safety edge.
yes. So safety edge being
It's Oz 6.
Demoted.
It's
it is demoted.
In all sorts of ways.
Yeah. So there were numerous changes that took place between the different generations, but because there were so many small tweaks, Sal has actually gone on record saying that they didn't really call it a generational split until there were enough changes to warrant it, which kind of mirrors like software releases for anybody who writes in like Java or Python. You know that, okay, this is version 3.7 of the software, and you'll only ever get upgraded to 4 when there's a major overhaul.
Yeah.
The full flat grinds for both the Delica and the Endura were only available for the Generation 4.
That's been
Yeah.
a recent development with all
Yeah.
the flats. That's why I was kind of bummed we didn't have one on the Endura.
To show off, yeah. Let's see, it was 1997 when Generation 2 was released for the Endura 2. It had an Oz 6 steel blade for the Type.
I thought there was a
But-
batch with Oz 6 that were actually
Besides the
live
trainer.
blades. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, it was kind of weird.
Don't
that
worry about it.
Ashamed of themselves.
It's a little weird that they actually did a step down from Oz 8 to Oz 6 for Generation 2, and I couldn't really find much literature on that as to why they did the shift. Let's see, Generation 3 came along in 1998.
When did it change to Oz 6?
Apparently 97 is when they started, and it had
I'm
an
wondering about-
Oz 6 steel blade.
I'm wondering about the correlation with the Gen 2s along with them expanding on their Colorado factory.
That could have been
Because
part of
that's
it.
in and around the same time that they were getting their Colorado factory up and running. So
Well-
they might have taken a step back
Save a
on
little bit of
their
money.
tried and true,
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to establish.
The
And
thing
this is just me hypothesizing, right? But,
Now,
yeah.
the thing is, and I have a handy chart that I'm going to be sending to Nigel, and he can again pop in, but this will show you the timeline of the Delicas, and which they came out alongside the Enduras. And from what I've been able to find, generational lists, Generation 2 for the Delicas started in 1996. Generation 3's started in 1998. However, both were in production until 2006.
Oh,
So,
really? You could get a
there
Gen
was-
2 or a Gen 3.
Yes, and that's for
It's like
the
clocks.
that's for the Delicas, and I'm sure it's the same for the Enduras. I'll have to take another look, and maybe we'll leave something in here if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's the same for both because they were always side by side.
Yeah, like
They always
were
developed together.
in correspondence.
Can
Yes.
I ask a very quick question here?
Yeah.
When they came out Gen 1s with the plastic pocket clip, they were tip up. Like, set up like this, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
They had to be one of the few companies doing that at the time.
Yeah, for mid
For the
90s.
mid-90s, like, everything was tipped
Everyone
down.
was very popular with the tip down.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I think that was another thing that Spyderco started to popularize. And eventually, when they did move to steel clips, they gave the option.
Yeah.
And that may have been a deciding factor. It's funny that I found out Sal was talking about the development of the plastic pocket clip through their Endurance and the Delica models. It wasn't that they immediately went to the pocket or to the steel pocket clip. It took a long time for them to really, okay, you know what, we've invested too much time and money into this. It's time to move on to something that just works, because they had problems with clips breaking, with them snapping because of they're too thin. Then they started bulking up the clips, thinking, okay, that'll solve the problem. But then there were torsional problems where they would still break. I thought, okay, what if we add reinforcement and widen it? They tried so many different things to try and make it one piece construction, but they couldn't keep it working.
Yeah, it's weird that they stuck with the plastic for so long.
Yeah, I was going to say, plastic over time is just going to fatigue and stop working.
Yeah, and I think it was supposed to be an ease of manufacture for them.
100%.
To cost savings, I'm assuming, as well. And yes, that's right. For the Delicas...
The stiffest Delica. This has got to be the stiffest Delica out
Okay,
there.
well, disclaimer, that was my first good knife. And that thing has been with me in the ocean. It has been with me when I didn't know how to handle a knife properly.
Yeah.
So that thing has been through a lot. And that's after cleaning.
Oh, my.
I've disassembled that. And
So is it rough on the inside? Like, is it... Excuse me while I smack these knives together.
So those two are mine. I don't give a shit. Well, don't hack into them into each other.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. No, this one needs to be played with a little bit. Like, even if I'm holding down the lock...
Yeah, there's no swing.
No, it needs to be cleaned up a bit. Contrasting the full flat grind, actually. That'd be a good time to pop that in.
Zip tie and all.
Oh, the beautiful Emerson zip tie. Handmade by Emerson's slightly ridiculous cousin.
I'm just going to show you what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
It succeeds. I don't care what you say.
It upsets me, and it upsets a lot of people.
Yeah, I completely understand why. But as far as like this knife goes, it's not a pretty knife to begin with.
No.
So they did a lot of variations over the years. Dealer exclusives came a little bit later. They started doing color and handle variations in Generation 4 as well. So you'll notice mine is gray as opposed to the normal black. We have a purple.
They didn't offer variations up until 4?
Not unless they were
Really?
exclusives. I don't think so, no. There were different variations. Let me check here. 'Cause I'm pretty sure.
That's interesting.
Indeed.
You would think.
Is that your interesting voice?
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, my mistake. I thought that they hadn't.
God damn it.
This guy's leading the show. He's not leading any shows.
No, this is kind of lackluster leading. Your herd's kind of diverging here, Joe.
Coyote
That's
Sorry,
right,
man.
everybody.
diving into a canyon right now.
Now, what I was looking as far as like collection photos, there were a couple of guys that did have a lot of these, but I didn't think they were full production, but there were some with full colored handles. So they started doing that early on. They thought, okay, plastic handles, there's lots of room for variation.
Yeah, why not at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Today,
Well,
obviously...
we did the episode not too long ago about Benchmade, and they had started offering color variations very, very soon in
Yes.
Reptilian, and that's why
yeah.
that was why I was kind of like,
I just had...
really?
Yeah,
If I was
I
a
just
company offering plastic handles at that time, and I got a chance to buy a certain color of plastic for a cheap price, I would buy it immediately. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is that they were short runs, and I couldn't find a ton of information about it, but they had some that were blue, they had some that were green and pink. Those only seem to have stuck around until 95 at the latest. The black ones were the longest lasting, at least as far as Gen 1 was concerned.
See?
Then they had a number that were stainless steel.
Don't worry about it.
But I do.
I'll click 2 or 3 times.
You have already.
Clicky, clicky.
Now, from what I can find, the Delica 2s only ever came in stainless steel handles.
Really?
Weird.
Yeah, very weird. Those were the versions that came with
So
all
that
six.
was the Delica or the Endura 2 is the stainless steel.
Yes.
So
Interesting.
Wow. Okay, so you could not get an Endura 4 with stainless steel handle.
Sorry, no, it was just, but no, so what I'm saying is for Gen 2, there was never a Gen 2 that was FRN.
Yeah, okay.
There was
so
a
they
Gen
were
2,
strictly- yeah.
yes, there was just the stainless
But
steel.
as the Delica and the Endura evolved, so did the stainless steel variations that you could get with it.
Is
Yes,
there any real
okay.
difference between a stainless steel Endura and a stainless steel Police?
Yes,
the
yes.
B point
The blade
on it.
shape
yeah.
and the handle shape was also slightly different.
But yeah, you got a point.
They're
And then you
basically
can
so
kind of
close.
lump the military in there too
Mhm.
if you wanted to, but they all do have a
Oh,
slightly
yes.
different feel.
So we saw huge developmental jumps as Spyderco was dialing in what they liked doing, what people were responding well to. Now we're left with Generation 4. It's falling. It's falling to
Don't you worry about it.
I'm a little worried.
You gotta give the audience something. Because right now Joe's talking and there's not 4 guys talking about having a
This is
conversation.
Paul Weasley.
He's giggling and he playing with stuff because I'm getting bored of hearing just.
Well, there it is. Now you know how it feels. Well, fine then. You can talk.
No.
No, you get to talk now.
There's 4 people talking. I'm just usually the one spouting bullshit.
Well, you've been into knives way longer than I have. That's a fair statement.
This is true.
What have you seen be popular in the in the development of Delicas and Enduras?
Well, I mean, it's been limited for the evolution of. I came in probably on Generation 3 and Generation 4 is probably where I came onto the scene. So you had already started to work with a metal clip. I don't know the evolution of the plastic. It seemed kind of weak. Grip-wise, comfort-wise, the Delicas are much more in the city, being that we are in the city than the Enduras. I find the Delicas a much more popular option.
Much easier.
Both with guys and with girls. Like it's there is the certain guy out there that definitely likes the Endura, likes the length, likes the handle grip, and doesn't mind.
Likes the hand size.
Yeah. And doesn't mind compromising a little more space in the pocket to do so, right?
Like me with the Crooked River sort of thing is I like the bigger one because of my hands, but it's more city appropriate.
Yeah.
It's not the one that you can like have both in your pocket and depending on what you're doing kind of thing.
When the flat grinds came around, I definitely noticed a wave of a lot of people wanting to jump on the flat grinds.
Something new and different.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people followed the logic behind
They're super slicey, man.
the grinds.
They are
Super slicey.
That is one thing that I kind of liked about having this as a first knife because of how thick the steel is, comparatively speaking, to the flat grind.
Yeah, there's a lot more of a distal
tapers.
taper on these guys compared to the.
It's also a lot thinner behind the edge on the full flat versus the saber. So I could be a little bit rougher with this knife, and I'm not as worried about chipping or doing anything like that. And I think a lot of people thought the same way. But this just makes a better cutter.
Well, and I think maybe this happened with the evolution of Spyderco starting to be known as a more elite company. And getting out of the lower end brands, the whatever type of thing, where guys didn't know what they were, and just the everyday Joe was grabbing them and beating the crap out of them, and the hollow grind would give you a slightly better like durability.
And think of who they were. Who were the well-known people and companies in the mid '90s? You've got people like Trezola, you have Cold Steel, you have early Benchmades. They're all kind of touted as hard-use tactical knives anyway. So that makes sense that they went for a grind like that right off the hop.
Yeah, and then this didn't come around until
just recently.
Yeah, it's been, I want to say, probably 4 or 5 years now that they've had, maybe 4 years, but that they've had the grind on there. And I think at that point they were starting to be known as an elite company. Guys who knew what they were looking for put up a Spyderco in their pocket. The guys who didn't know what they were looking for, budget knives, whatever, nothing against them but the CRKTs and the Kershaws, and that's what they were picking up. Where the guys were like, I'm willing to spend twice as much on getting twice as good of a starter knife.
A little bit more refined of a product.
And you would walk out
steel.
with the Delica and the Endura, right?
Yeah.
So,
and at the time, plastics were not just accepted, but they were looked for in production level knives. Because at the time, plastic was still kind of new into that world. Everyone was so used to brass or steel or wood.
Traditional pocket.
Yeah. This was the new thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like when straight racers were first coming around in the 18th century using like plastic handles. Well, it's the same sort of idea. The allure of, this is new in the space age, and
And I think that's probably where the introduction of things like the military and the paramilitary, because they were taking designs like this and making a slightly beefier, slightly more tactical version, and still keeping these on what they were.
Yes.
Instead of evolving a Delica and Endura to be something.
You almost like double your client base by doing that, by having 2 separate models that are geared to 2 separate people.
Yeah.
And I think that philosophy kind of extended itself just beyond Spyderco, and you see a lot of companies doing this now. Benchmade has the mini and full-size grip. They have the Barrages. They have so many others. They're even doing it. Well, Spyderco's doing it with the paramilitaries. Militaries.
Even before Spyderco, you could even say Buck with a 110 or a 112.
Yeah, they had a
Can
bunch
throw,
of different sizes for the Buck stuff.
Yeah, there's been several different companies to have employed that.
Yeah.
Ergonomics might not fit everyone type of.
Before I forget, you did mention, I had to double check to make sure. Flat ground with the purple was introduced in 2011.
2011. So
Yeah.
you're saying flat ground was around since 2011? No way.
7
Yep.
years? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I
'Cause, yeah,
had
flat
to double
ground-
check because I wasn't sure, but yes.
Yeah, because the flat ground stuff's definitely been around since I've gotten into the knife world.
Interesting. I haven't really noticed a demand for it for the last 7 years, I guess.
Maybe it took a while to come around.
I didn't really notice a demand for flat grind up until 3 years ago, or like I said, 4 years ago, or something like
It
that.
may not have been on a lot of people's radars, given that we are, in Canada. That could be a big part of it. Our experience might be different than.
And it could be that slow conversion is the same as tip down compared to tip up. And eventually you have this conversion of, wait, there's a better way to do things.
You have enough people talking about it and being like, have you tried this thing? It's so slicey.
But it wasn't an overnight process. Still to this day, we have tip down, nothing but tip down knives. So we're still boggled every time a knife maker comes out with one of those, but it happens.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm curious about is, because I know the Spyderco forums are definitely very active, and we've seen that Spyderco definitely listens to the forums as well. I wonder how many people were modifying these guys to be a full flat grind, and that's why Spyderco, I just kind of pondering in my mind.
Clip came about eventually.
Yeah. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an actual correlation. I was just pondering in my mind there.
But
yeah.
I think maybe if it's 2011, I think with the regrind thing that's going on right now with the Spyderco Nirvanas or the Propers, or where these guys are professional regrind to be a proper slicing knife, I think that goes hand in hand with social media.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
with the 2011, we already had that, which maybe predates some of the social media.
YouTube was 2006.
Yeah.
Is when it came on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's been forever.
So, I mean, yeah, it could be something to do with the social media aspect of it. It could be custom regrinds, things like that.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Or it could just be the evolution of people going, hey.
Yeah,
we'd
just
rather
the
have it this way.
developers playing and performing and seeing what works.
It might have just been somebody in there playing with a hand grind. You know what I mean? Coming up with something, playing with it, and being like, wow, this thing really cuts.
Oh crap, I've taken this one too far. Let's see what I can do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Salvage this one, or it's the one that's in their pocket. They're like, screw it, let's play with it.
Yeah, could be.
This Emerson predates this Emerson by about 2 years. They were introduced as a limited run, 500 pieces.
So people be cutting themselves?
People be cutting themselves.
And they're like, 2 years later, they're like, damn.
Please stop.
All these pictures of stitches are making our stomachs just upset.
And this is the day before, prevalent use of the internet, so that people had to take pictures, wait for them to develop, mail them in. It wasn't that long ago, but just for being dramatic, I like to think that Sal Glasser, damn it again, opens up an envelope just full of pictures of people
Polaroids.
cutting themselves. This is what your knife did to me. Anyway, also known as the tactical bubble blower.
It is. It's a fantastic bubble blower. You should blow bubbles with it all the time.
I actually heard this from a regular at the shop, and I actually went home and tried it, and it works. It's an amazing bubble
Whenever
blower.
you're doing dishes, this should be you're doing the dishes now, so at least once you can dip it in and blow some bubbles.
And I know what you guys are saying. Oh, you can do that with the regular hole. Well, it's not as fun. Get more.
Okay, question.
More holes.
Do
more
they still
bubbles.
make this?
Yes, of course they still make
Because
this.
I need
Yes.
to get this for all my nieces and nephews.
Tactical bubble blower.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Great
If you get the
stuff.
Wiseman ring on the back that we haven't talked about yet, but that Wiseman modification, then you can Emerson weave it upside down grip and tactically bubble blow.
Reverse grip
Yes.
bubble blow?
You can still reverse grip wave these,
Yeah.
which is actually why the pocket clip is set up that way, because tip up even when reversed. But I think, so there was Wiseman who made those rings, and they were in response to, was it just the Enduras that, or no, it was the Matriarchs.
Well, no, they
Just
offered
popularity of Grambits.
The Fox Dart came out, which was a really, really popular non-karambit version that you could, like a Tanto that came out, and I think that was like, wait, it doesn't have to be a hooked karambit to have a ring on the back, and that's where they employed it.
But as far as the hook is concerned, trying to slightly get back on track, sorry guys.
Yep.
This was one of the early-ish collaborations with Emerson. So Emerson, obviously having started off with Benchmade, started to do his own thing. These guys were introduced, like I was saying, 2006, 2008. The Wave Endura, which we don't have on the table here, was introduced around the same time, 2006 as well. However, the trainer didn't, or I think the trainer was only available for the Endura 2008 to 2009.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Only 2 years.
Yeah, that's weird.
It just must not have been popular for whatever reason. Yeah, so these two are mine. I carried them, trained with both of them fairly extensively for a few
I've blown
years.
bubbles with them both.
I was just going to say, this is by far the better bubble blower. Do you guys have any wave? What do you guys think about this wave shape as opposed to?
I've got a wave shape.
Well, you liked it enough to modify.
That's it.
You know what? We may as well have that up there now that you bring it up.
Just to make
this
people
has
happy.
actually been a huge fad for a long time for people who didn't want to pony up.
A terrible fad.
Yep.
It should have been shot.
Okay, but do you know what's worse? Well, you know what's worse? I've seen pictures online of guys, they take a zip tie or some other kind of attachment method, and there's a freaking hexagonal nut
Oh yeah.
on the
those are
outside, and they
gross,
use that
yeah.
instead.
So much worse.
At least that's not going to tear up your pockets as much just because the sides are smoother, but it looks atrocious.
I went in there with my lighter and really smoothed it out too, like to make it so it's not tearing things up.
And the closest thing I have is the 530 that you can wave off your pocket if you're not careful, because the Benchmade 530
yeah.
you can do it.
Fair enough. But as far as intentional waves, the only other models that had this were not the Civilian, but the Matriarch 1 and 2, I believe. So outside of
That
that,
cookie guy.
yeah, with that giant S
So
curve.
mean looking.
Yep.
Yeah, those things are nasty. But these guys seem to have had a resonating popularity since then.
I actually stand corrected. I have a Mini Commander. That's an actual Emerson. That's a Mini Commander. And I never carry it. It's just in the collection because I have an Emerson, so I can have an Emerson. But
No, fair enough.
there's so much nicer things on the market.
Emerson.
All about the Emersons. Not the Spyderco Emersons or the ZT Emersons.
Yeah.
Or the Kershaw Emersons or the Spyderco Emersons. But the Emerson Emersons.
Emerson.
Emerson. I think I'm going to blow up into an Emerson and roll away.
Oh boy, self-defense with a knife. Definitely something that's a bit of a touchy subject in most places in the States, a little bit less so depending on where you are. The wave feature was to make these quickly accessible for tactical applications, whether you're a police officer or a civilian. There was a forum group who, they had an exclusive made. It was a car. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Calsa Arms.
Yeah,
Car.
KAHR Arms exclusive. It was a 2.5-inch semi-Wharncliffe blade. So if you can, maybe Nigel will be nice enough to pop in a picture. But otherwise, it's a.
Send him a picture. Come on.
I'll send pictures. Don't
That's
worry.
what I do.
I'll send you the best pictures. They're huge. But they were they were essentially a cut down, slightly shortened version made to be. Was it Cali legal?
I don't know. You're telling this story.
Well, I couldn't find much information as to for the legality aspect of it. I seem to remember you mentioning something about that before. But eventually, it led to the development of a standard Wharncliffe Delica. So this one is now in current production.
The crowd's asked for it.
It's been a popular enough request and apparently a popular enough modification of the flat ground versions that it's around now. So that was in 2017.
Just last year it came out.
Yeah.
Joe's knives are just
January.
like so nice and easy to drop shut.
Hey, shut up.
Fix the crap, dude.
No.
Like, it's,
You have your stuff too loose. I don't want to be able to gravity wave it open.
I.
We're not going to get into it. So, Wharncliffe. So this is pretty different. It seems like the Delicas and Enduras are keeping in with very standard blade shapes for the most part. This is a bit of a departure. Normally they call it something entirely different. Like we have the Matriarch 2, which has the same exact handle from the Endura, has the S-curved blade shape, yet this has the same handle as the Delica, and they're still calling this a Delica blade. I thought that was kind of neat that they didn't bother creating a whole new
But didn't
name.
they grind this from a Delica? Like, isn't this a regular?
No,
Well,
in
but if
theory?
you look at the blade shapes, there is some differences.
it's
Oh,
the spine. If you look,
Touche.
It's
there's
inspired
a lot of
by-
material, so you can see, but there's a lot of material behind that this initial grind line, and I'm not sure how Spyderco blade blanks are made. Couldn't find that particular information. I think the initial ones were just kind of random modifications that people did to their own stuff.
Well, and like the car
Let's just call it car arms.
customs. That's kind of where the first modified, but they had cut it off way down low,
Yes.
so the blade was like, I don't know if it was California legal or not, but it was super short, and I think that's where the Warncliffe got the inspiration.
That was 2.5 inches. This is longer than that.
I think 2.5 inches is their auto.
Question for y'all.
Mhm.
Do you like the traditional or the Warncliffe more? Now that it's out.
Traditional way more.
Do you?
For me, traditional.
I don't like that Warncliffe specifically. I like Warncliffes.
Okay.
I think I like the Warncliffe.
Me too.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I think it's never wowed me, and this is enough of a unique blade shape that I don't have a ton of things that look like it in the collection, so it mixes
Yeah,
it
I'll give you
up
that.
a little bit.
I think
You have a
for-
larger collection than me, though.
Yeah, he has a larger collection than everyone.
Yeah.
All of us together.
But yeah.
That's my antics.
I think what does it for me is, at least with the Warncliffe and how high they've got that curve going, there's reason for that hole other than just to have room for the hole. With the Delica, it looks like they gemmed in and had to compensate the blade shape to put it in the hole. With the Warncliffe version, there's room for it anyway.
There
It
is-
looks a little more of a fluid design.
Yeah.
It looks more
Yeah.
intentional, although I have to say the whole design in the dark philosophy
yeah.
started with the Endura.
Endelica?
And the Endelica.
The
Watch, guys,
Endelica.
2019, new model. It's an in-between size. It's completely useless. But following the line off your
Completely
thumb, I think the whole design of the dark
It's
philosophy.
called the pair of three.
I would also,
Fair enough.
I would also argue, though, that having a wider blade makes that transition in a full flat, anyways, that much longer, which gives you a slicier blade too. Like, that's part of the. It may not have been the reason why they did it originally.
There's a lot of advantages to the way they've designed this model, which kind of explains why it's been around for so
Yeah.
long and been as popular as
I-
it is.
I mean, obviously, it hasn't been the full flat hasn't been around forever, but
It's made its place.
2011,
Yeah.
apparently, the purple came out, so I don't know when the flat came out compared to the purple and the flat, but it's been out
That
for
was
a
the
while.
that was the earliest mention that I could find, and I assume the purple came out alongside the majority of the other colors.
I need a purple one.
So
Purple's nice.
the fact that they have been converting, again, the evolution, it's only a matter of time before they come up with them. Ergonomics-wise, let's go into that, because, I mean, what does everyone prefer? Delicas, Enduras?
Like I kind of touched on slightly earlier on in the episode, just because of my hand size, definitely the bigger Enduras.
Can I see how a Delica sits in your hand
Yeah.
comparatively?
Nigel with the XL hand,
So
definitely.
Yeah,
it is in that
And it's
awkward
in
stage
an
for you.
awkward-
It's,
Okay.
well, doubly awkward because I can't fit both fingers into that front choil, so that my middle finger's up onto that point. That pushes my ring finger out of that little bit of the choil, so I'm up on that point, and then my pinky's hanging off. And yeah,
So you would really go with Endura every time if you were to choose
always. Yeah.
And for the record, Nigel or myself do not own a Delica or an Endura.
No.
Anything that came from the collection was from some outside help from friends from Morgan, who you've seen on a couple episodes.
Estuana.
Yeah. So we are coming into this in a I'm going to bump stuff around.
As always.
We're going to come into this non-biased as possible, and I personally would go with the Delica myself. Now, I would definitely go with the Warncliffe. The two finger is skinny enough, even with my large hand. I can get the pinky on the back
Because
of
of your
it.
apple pickers.
Skinny fingers,
Yep.
Yeah.
but I can get on the back of it. And for an EDC size,
name.
it's a little bit big in the pocket, but this is a little bit big because of the hump on the pocket as
Yeah.
well. So, not as big as the Endura,
Yeah.
for sure, when you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But width-wise, it really is.
The width might even be more.
The Endura is
Right
a little bit
close.
longer,
Yeah.
but this way, when you reach your hand in the pocket, it's going to feel the same way no matter what you're putting in your pocket, I think, no matter what. Right?
Yeah.
So, again, original purpose, I like the way that it looks. I would personally pick a Warncliffe Delica.
I like the Warncliffe on the Dragonflight way more than I like the Warncliffe on this.
Yeah, we've seen some customizations where the Warncliffe on the Delica or the Dragonfly.
Dragonfly.
And it's really, really nice, for sure. And I would like to see a production version of that.
Me too. Very much so. Sprint runs?
Yeah, we may as well get into sprint runs now. So, as always, Spyderco does offer limited editions. They're around for an indeterminate period of time before they fade away into oblivion. They've just recently started numbering stuff with the darn Dow, but stuff like this, the Super Blue Endura, this isn't a sprint run, by the way. This is current production. They're planning on continuing this. But this guy, this was a limited production run from, it was 2 years ago, I believe, when they first came out. Let me reference that.
So, yeah.
But in the meantime, laminated.
Might have been 3.
2015, 2016, something like that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like 2015, I think.
Somewhere in there.
Mhm.
This thing.
But yeah, it's
Super
like,
Bowl.
Yeah, 2013. There were. Oh wow, there were only 1,200 made.
but yeah, it was a laminated blade with super blue for the inner core, and then what was it?
420?
Yep, 420J1 for the outer casing.
There's a little bit of confusion among Spyder fans. They refer to this as gray FRN. Now, to our eyes, this doesn't look gray. This looks more like a
It's a
blued, kind of off-white.
bluish gray.
This is a gray. I mean, it's a dirty gray, but this is because it's
It's
in
a
my pocket,
greenish gray.
If I wanted to
Yeah.
hide on the Star Wars snow
Yeah.
universe,
Yeah.
this would be a great color.
But yeah, but
this
I feel like the Delicas were a
No,
slightly
would be a
different
good color to be on the
This-
reality show.
slightly
Hunting
more
Crocodiles.
This
Don't
is-
remember.
this is actually navy blue, but they also listed this as gray.
You
That's not great.
seriously
No, it's not.
faded that as well. But
Well, there's tons of dirt and lint and stuff, and I clean these. But actually, on the backspacers, you can see it most clearly the difference between the colors. They list these all as being gray. It's weird. But again, to denote special limited runs, this purple is not a special limited run. They're continually making this color. Super blue, high use wear resistant tool steel, been around for a little while. Over time, special stuff started getting introduced.
limited. Throw up the limited. Things
So-
that are fancy in the fancy. Hey.
So, only 1,000 of these made. Only 1,200 of these made. Neither of them are in production anymore. They did come with some write-ups. We'll have to make sure these go back into the
They made
cases.
Delicas of both these
color.
versions as well.
Yes. And they alternated which were released in which year, I believe. So that when these were released, the Delicas were the blue and vice versa. They do come with write-ups talking about how and why.
And then they were popular enough that they also released them with titanium handles that I believe are still in current production.
At least the Delicas, I can't remember off the top of my head if the Endura
I want to
is.
say both of them,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of in the same boat.
Well,
Yeah.
the Damascus, let me verify that, but I think the Damascus Delicas are still in production.
With titanium handles rather than the
Well, I know for sure the Delica ones are. It's the Enduras if we're not sure.
Anyway,
Yeah.
rambly, limited
Rambly,
edition.
rambly.
All
So-
about the
And Spyderco has always been good about experimenting with new steels, bringing new stuff in for people to play with.
They had the burnt orange Hat 41s
Mm-hmm.
last year, I'm sure.
This
Yes.
year they're doing the Rex 34, is it? 34 or 1?
Well, there was the Rex 45, but
Oh,
they're also
45.
doing the Toku V.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
think the Delicas and the Enduras this year for 2018 are the Toku V stuff.
Well, the
which-
Rex 34 stuff was like just released last week.
Rex
Oh, 45,
45.
sorry. Why do I keep this? Yeah.
And the paramilitaries are out, at least.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
I'm just realizing how different that Damascus is on the two.
The patterns on both of them, as well as the etching on both of them, very
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
Fading is very different, where you've got the orange jig bone, but where it's jigged, you get some really, really dark colors, and then on the sides you get orange. Whereas yours,
Mine is on the light
nice and
side from what
purple,
I've
but
seen.
where it's sanded off, it almost has the natural bone color on
That's-
yours.
Actually, that's a little darker side there.
That is darker on that side.
And it's funny, just for sake of comparison, if you guys find these out in the wild, a friend of mine has, I believe it's a blue one as well, same as yours. And his scales are both as dark, if not darker than this.
I've seen ones also that were much lighter than that as well.
So there is some kind of variation. Natural materials are obviously going to react
Of
differently.
course.
Yeah. So obviously you were tempted enough to buy the special edition. What was so appealing to you?
It was my birthday and it came up as a really good price, so I couldn't say no to it. And it seemed like something that I could actually put in my collection that might be worth something eventually. Because most of the stuff that goes into my collection goes in my pocket.
And for sprint runs, as far as Damascus and things like that, they don't go to the Delicas and the Enduras quite often. Spyderco will do militaries, paramilitaries, things like that, right? So to get as fancy as J-Bone with titanium and Damascus and stuff like that, that does kind of set those two apart.
I also had a Delica, but I didn't have an Endura, so that was another consideration at the time.
Fair enough. You wanted to try out the different size.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for me, there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in the Delica. The Endura was a nice expansion from that, thinking like, oh yeah, slightly more capable blade for larger tasks. It was lots of fun to play with, and I enjoyed having it in my collection. You don't have any Delicas or Enduras.
No, he already pointed out that
voice
both
in
of
the
us don't.
opinion. Yeah. I do like the Endura. I think because they're budget enough, I probably would own both of them. But again, being a steel snob that I am,
You'd probably wait for
I
something
played
a little
with
nicer.
BG10. I understand what they do. The sprint runs appeal to me from time to time, but there hasn't been a steel that I'm like, yes, I need some of that to jump on one of the sprint runs.
I miss the Delica in blue steel, and I'm sad about it.
The Super Blue is one of the ones that I probably would have jumped on myself, but I like Patina Ying. Patina Ying?
Neither one of those
Patina
right.
Ying? I don't know.
Still
You
wrong.
like the
Anyway,
Patinas?
yeah, one of those things. I like doing it now. So I probably would like the Super Blue because you could get probably a nice patina
Mhm.
on the edge, right?
Yeah.
So
This one has an extra screw.
You're an extra screw.
No. There's an extra.
Yeah.
Which one's first?
I believe the blue was first.
Well, then maybe they realized that it came apart there or something.
it's
Yeah.
better to screw you with, my dear. It's
Don't you dare.
right there. All right.
Any final thoughts?
On the history of, I think they're a good budget. And don't get me wrong, but I mean, I think there's other things out here. If you had your steel wheel cut jack on you, like that is definitely slightly less expensive. I think just as good of a knife as far as an introductory knife.
Better steel,
Sprint runs, cool.
arguably.
If you can get them. Better
Yeah.
steel. Well, BG10 and D2, they're going to be ballparky. They're going to be close to the same steel. As far as the sprint runs go, if you can get one of those, some of the fancy steels, I think it's a good way to play with some of the higher end fancy steels still at a budget price. But some of those steels are flash in the pan, and some of those steels are going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know all of the variations, but
There's literally too many to list.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the Rex 45 stuff is going to be a bit of a groundbreaker this year. And getting into the Rex steels, which is kind of like in the early 2000s getting into the CPM S30 steels. But anyway, thoughts on Delicas, Enduras, all about the good times.
They're a great flagship model. They've definitely made their place in history. I think Joe at one point mentioned earlier this week when we were talking about them doing research for this episode that they were Spyderco's first full production knives.
That's right.
Like before that, anything that they were doing was just like a small flash patch sort of limited run sort of thing.
Still going off of a family-owned basis.
And the Delicas and the Enduras were their first full-time production run that was fully available. I've said full way too many times in that sentence.
But it gets the point across.
Yeah.
Full.
It's all Emerson.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was the
That's
first.
when I stopped watching.
Really? They're still watching? Jesus.
I don't think so.
And you think about the specifics of why that happened. They were being made out of Japan. A little bit more cost effective to do it that way at the time.
Mhm.
They were made with FRN handles. They were trying to create the pocket clip as one piece with the rest of the construction. Like they were trying to do cost savings in order to bring a good functional knife back to the US.
Mm-hmm.
I think they succeeded with it.
Definitely.
And it was a sign of good things to come because now we have them doing not collaboration work, but they have a factory out in Taiwan that's doing incredible work. Their Japanese factory is still outputting.
Just for the record, these holes are as sharp as the ones from Taiwan.
Fair enough.
Question we haven't answered yet is how much they both weigh.
All right, so the original full.
That's not going to be a fair difference.
With the zip tie.
Exactly.
You're a zip tie.
We'll say
Close
zip
as we can get.
I can cut that shit off.
2.52.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And that's for the beefier guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Warncliffe.
2.35.
Oh.
Huh.
With the flat grind Warncliffe.
231.
So apparently the flat grind loses substantial weight
Yeah.
compared to the hologram.
Even with the zip tie on
Even
it.
with the zip tie.
Even with your ugly ass zip tie.
Hater.
And then the Endura, or at least the Super Blue is.
3.3.
Still, it's pretty light.
Yeah.
Out of
that it is.
curiosity, I want to see the VG10s.
Yeah.
Even lighter.
3.28.
Yeah, pretty much.
That super blue is some dense stuff right there.
Evidently, yeah.
Oh.
3.33.
Why is your purple so much lighter?
More dirt.
It is yours.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know what to say about
And
that.
then as compared to one of the Jigbone guys.
5.05.
Ooh, that's a hefty one
There's
for sure.
there's
No
no pocket
pocket.
clip. That's a hint.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes with something like that.
You're not sticking that in your pocket.
No, what I'm saying, it comes with that. It's
Oh, yeah.
not designed to take in your
It's
pocket. and
still
go
lighter
somewhere.
than a buck
Yeah.
with the pouch.
That's funny.
Is it actually lighter than
Yes,
With
it
the-
is.
6.9?
Yes, it is.
Amazing.
Oh, that's too
You
funny.
can't see it, folks. I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
I love you, Buckland Ted. I love you.
Okay, so
Final thoughts and conclusions. Great flagship. Decent performance for the cost. A huge part of culinary history.
Culinary
Sorry.
history.
Cutlery history.
No,
A definite-
culinary.
a definite upgrade from your
Actually, didn't-
standard budget knives.
Well, Spyderco
Yeah.
made the Spidey Chef, but did they ever make kitchen knives?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Very
They
cool.
sure did.
Okay, well then they
They still
did.
do.
They
just-
weren't
no.
named the Delica or the Endura.
Sure
They
they
were named something else.
Shut up.
They should have had a paring knife, a fixed blade paring knife called the Delica Fix. Anyway.
Concluding thoughts. Delica, thumbs up. Endura, thumbs up.
Yeah. If you like the Spyderco stuff and you want to get into Spyderco stuff, I think they're a good option to go for. I think there's a lot of budget options out there that rival the Spyderco introductory stuff. Honestly,
If you're trying to build a collection, it's not a terrible thing to have.
Yeah, it's definitely like a flagship sort of model. They definitely have their place in history. They're a great introductory, higher end sort of budget knife a little bit, but they're still considered budget knife. They're a great model for sure.
They go the opposite direction, where a lot of knife companies will have a fancy handle and an okay steel, where like a lot of other companies go with fancy handles and okay steels in the blade. This is like a departure from that, where it's good steel and then a much cheaper handle to compensate for the fact that you don't want to really increase the price too much.
something we didn't dabble on either, consistency.
Yeah.
On the Delicas and the Enduras, and you're going to get a consistency on every single model. You're going to pull it out. It's going to be relatively centered. It's going to be relatively like
That's one
the
of Joe's
same.
sides.
Well, no, give it to Joe and he'll ruin it. But don't give it to Joe, and you don't have to worry about QC like you do with other things. Every
That's
single Delica,
exactly it.
every single Endura you pull out, they're going to be the same, and they're not going to be top quality, but you know what you're getting every single time you play with one. If you play with one on the shelf, that's the same as what you're going to get in the box.
Yeah, they've been making these guys for long enough for sure that they've definitely got it like dialed in. They know what they're doing with them.
Yeah.
I haven't had a single instance of scale rub out of box with any Spyderco I've played with, let alone the Delicas and Enduras.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there's still bronze phosphor too, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Like there's still...
I've disassembled them enough times to say that yes.
I think I tried to question him once on that, and I was proved wrong. So I'm going to go with yes for now, but
Let me look.
I'm watching him.
Yep. It's hard to tell, but they're in there.
So yeah, we just wrapping up here. We're gonna thank everyone who helped us make this video and help donate knives to our cause.
Where's the super blue? We got
Yeah, get the super blue up there. So yeah, we are going to thank we'll get the purple one up there as well. That's Morgan's.
So it's the super blue.
Yeah, but may as well have both of them.
But the super blue's nicer.
It is. But
Anyway,
it is.
continue.
We are going to thank the Cutting Edge for donating the Warrenclyffe one for us. Morgan at Estanawa donated the purple as well as the super blue, and Jenny Hot Rod donated the Bacon Wrap Damascus one for us here.
Yeah, we want to thank all three of those guys for really helping us out. Cutting Edge, again, secondary shout out for them taking models and letting us be able to review them. The Warrenclyffe was a big part of history when they finally decided to be production, and I hope it sticks around for a while. And I hope, like Paul mentioned, they optimize it in variations like the Dragonfly, because, fingers
100%.
crossed, that would be cool. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for letting us have this episode, make it what it is.
Yep. Thanks for following us through this little rambling history of Spyderco and how they are what they are. You felt like you were going to say something there.
He's just shooting some guns. It's all good. All right, signing off.
I am Nigel the Smith saying farewell for now.
I am who I am. I'm Dennis Webers.
I am the Iron Joe.
And I am at xl.ca.
Excellent. Have a good one, folks.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Take care.
Bye now.
Please stay subscribed.
We don't need